In the 15th century, the Portuguese crown, driven by a desire to break the Venetian monopoly on the lucrative spice trade, sought a new route to the Far East. In 1497, King Manuel I selected Vasco da Gama for the ambitious task. Following the route pioneered by Bartolomeu Dias, da Gama embarked on a challenging voyage. His squadron faced adversities, including the notorious scurvy that afflicted the crew. As they sailed, desperation and disease took their toll, but those still able-bodied pressed on. The unpredictable journey led da Gama to land far north of the Cape of Good Hope, a place called Helena Bay. The crew, grappling with scurvy's debilitating effects, was met with more challenges. A confrontation with the local Khoikhoi left da Gama wounded, and the Portuguese learned the hard lesson of approaching unknown lands with caution. Navigating treacherous waters, da Gama finally reached Mozambique in March 1498. Initial interactions with local natives were friendly, but tensions arose in Mozambique City, a settlement of Muslim traders. The Sultan, displeased with the quality of offered goods, led to altercations, prompting da Gama to flee. Continuing north, da Gama encountered a world far beyond their expectations, a network of rich, sophisticated city-states along the coast. This region was the edge of a vast trade network extending from Africa to India, through Malaysia, and the islands of Indonesia to China. The complexity of this Muslim-dominated world surprised the Portuguese. Another revelation dawned on da Gama as he noticed Muslim trading vessels were unarmed, unlike the heavily armed ships familiar to Mediterranean traders. This vulnerability made them easy prey for the Portuguese, who saw an opportunity to seize valuable cargo and hostages from these unsuspecting ships. Continuing his journey, Vasco da Gama made a brief yet tense stop in Mombasa, where hostility greeted his crew. However, at the more welcoming port of Malindi, da Gama found allies in the Sultan, who was in conflict with Mombasa. Gathering trade goods and securing a crucial Gujarati pilot, da Gama set sail for India on the monsoon winds. During his time in Malindi, da Gama encountered Hindu traders from Calicut. Unable to comprehend their language, he mistakenly believed them to be Christians, fueling his conviction that a Christian community existed amid the predominantly Muslim territories. Departing for India on April 24, 1498, da Gama reached Calicut in less than a month. In Calicut, da Gama faced challenges as the Zamorin, the ruler of the Hindu kingdom, rejected his gifts and insisted on customs duties. Despite tense negotiations, da Gama managed to conduct some trade. Frustrated but determined, he departed Calicut on September 20, 1498, disregarding warnings about the lingering monsoons. Soon, da Gama's fleet faced the consequences of his impatience. Trapped at sea by still winds, they finally reached Malindi 132 days later. The crew, suffering from scurvy, had dwindled significantly, and one ship was scuttled due to leaks. The two remaining ships navigated the Cape of Good Hope, reaching the western coast of Africa on April 25, 1499. Separated on their way to Portugal, da Gama's two ships took different routes. While his brother succumbed to illness on Cape Verde, Vasco da Gama, the last to arrive in Lisbon in early September, was hailed as a hero by the king. Despite the human cost, the spices he brought promised lucrative returns for the Portuguese crown, marking the beginning of a new era in maritime trade. Upon Vasco da Gama's triumphant return, the Portuguese crown, driven by an insatiable desire for control over the lucrative spice trade, launched a determined naval strategy to secure major Indian Ocean ports. Pedro Álvares Cabral was tasked with leading the next expedition, entrusted with convincing the Zamorin of Calicut to cooperate, acquiring more merchant ships, and bringing back valuable spices. Additionally, he carried Franciscan missionaries to convert the Hindus to Catholicism. Embarking on March 9, 1500, Cabral's fleet of 13 vessels followed the established route. However, a fortuitous deviation led him to the discovery of Brazil. After resupplying, he continued east, losing 5 ships in a storm. The remaining fleet regrouped in the Mozambique Channel, journeyed along the African coast, and reached Calicut on September 13th. This time, Cabral brought opulent gifts and secured a commercial treaty, establishing a spice processing factory. Tensions escalated when Cabral seized Arab merchant ships, resulting in riots, deaths, and retaliation. Calicut was bombarded, and Cabral proceeded south to Cochin, where trade flourished. Despite the success, Cabral faced hostility from the Zamorin, prompting a hasty departure. Returning to Lisbon on June 23, 1501, Cabral's expedition disrupted established trade patterns, signaling Portugal's growing influence. In 1502, Vasco da Gama led another armada with explicit orders to assert Portuguese dominance. Engaging in piracy and brutal tactics, he terrorized Muslim ports along the African coast. Da Gama attacked an Arab ship, burning pilgrims alive, and arrived in Calicut to demand submission. When the Zamorin resisted, Da Gama resorted to extreme cruelty, taking hostages, torturing a high priest, and bombarding Calicut. Despite loading his ships with spices from friendly ports, Da Gama failed to subdue the Zamorin. His brutal methods garnered spice but strained diplomatic ties. Returning to Lisbon in September 1503, Da Gama faced a lukewarm reception. Although his expeditions disrupted Indian shipping, his ultimate goal of complete submission from the Zamorin remained unfulfilled. In 1505, King Manuel I of Portugal, determined to establish a lasting presence in the Indian Ocean, appointed Francisco de Almeida as the first viceroy of Portuguese India. Almeida's mandate was clear: build forts and trading posts along the East African and Indian coasts, disrupting Muslim trade with Calicut. With 22 vessels, 1,000 sailors, and 1,500 soldiers, Almeida set sail to execute this ambitious mission. After conquering East Africa, Almeida stormed Kilwa, sacked Mombasa, and torched Mozambique, asserting control over a vast stretch of the African east coast. On the way to India, he established forts on Anjadip, Anhediva Island, and Cananore. However, upon reaching Cochin, he discovered that traders left by Cabral had been killed. Retaliating, he sent his son Lourenço to Quilin, where he destroyed 27 ships. Facing a Zamorin flotilla, Lourenço emerged victorious, inflicting heavy losses on the enemy. The Portuguese-Mamluk naval war erupted in 1505 as Arab ships fell prey to Portuguese attacks in Indian harbors. Desperate to protect their lucrative trade network, Sultan Kwanza al-Ghuri ordered a fleet's construction. Led by Emir Hussein al-Kurdi, the fleet reached Diu in 1507, joining local Indian forces and surprising Lourenço's smaller fleet at the Battle of Shaul. 6 of 8 Portuguese ships sank, and the viceroy's son was killed. Outraged, Almeida vowed revenge. In February 1509, he decisively defeated the Egyptian-Indian coalition, severely punishing the Egyptian captives. Meliquis, the governor of the city, surrendered, paying a hefty tribute and returning hostages. The defeated Egyptian fleet retreated, marking the end of serious Mamluk challenges to Portuguese dominance in the Indian Ocean. Alfonso de Albuquerque, succeeding Almeida as viceroy in 1509, faced the crucial task of establishing a secure naval base in the Indian Ocean. Recognizing the need for a central hub, Albuquerque chose the Malabar coast to create Portuguese Goa. This strategic location boasted a good harbor, a thriving shipbuilding industry, and served as a major trade center. However, before Albuquerque could fully execute his grand plan, another fleet under Marshal Fernão Coutinho arrived in the Indian Ocean with specific instructions to overthrow the Zamorin of Calicut. Despite Albuquerque's reluctance, he joined the endeavor. The direct assault on Calicut resulted in the takeover of the city and the looting of the Zamorin's palace. Nevertheless, the locals fiercely resisted, leading to bloody street fighting. Coutinho lost his life, and Albuquerque was seriously wounded. The Portuguese, failing to subdue the Zamorin once again, had to retreat, marking the start of a century-long struggle with the forces of Calicut. Despite these setbacks, Albuquerque, recovering miraculously from his wounds, revisited his original plan. In 1510, he allied with local Hindus to capture Goa from the Sultanate of Bijapur. Supported by Tamoji, a Hindu pirate commanding 2,000 men, Albuquerque succeeded, and Goa became the capital of the Portuguese Empire's colonies east of the Cape of Good Hope until 1961. The Portuguese legacy extended beyond India and Eastern Africa. Under Albuquerque's leadership, they sought to control key Muslim-controlled ports, including Ormuz, Malacca, and Aden. Ormuz guarded the entrance to the Persian Gulf. Malacca served as a gateway to the Bay of Bengal and beyond, while Aden, situated at the base of the Red Sea, was crucial for spice trade with Egypt. While Albuquerque successfully bottled up Ormuz and Malacca, Aden remained beyond Portuguese control. Muslim merchants exploited this gap, continuing to move spices through the Red Sea to Muslim Egypt, where Venetians continued to trade. The Portuguese dominated the spice trade in northern Europe, but the Venetians maintained their stronghold on Eastern European trade. The struggle for supremacy in the lucrative trade routes of the East continued, shaping the complex of the maritime history.